2021 order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Bourne?
Here.
Mr. Coleman?
Here.
Ms. Materney?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Thank you. If you're able, please join me in standing, saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Council minutes from November 16th. Thank you, Mayor. Everyone has received a copy of the meeting minutes. If I hear no thoughts on that, I am going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the City Council meeting held on November 16th, 2021 as written and dispense with their reading. Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
We have no special reports today. Letters, communications, citizen concerns. Do you have any citizens concerns? If none, Mayor's report, I would just like to again thank all those that made Sunday's parade a success. That includes the Ruffner family and Hero Automotive that sponsored it as well. And also a special shout out to the street division that did some extra work and took time away from picking up leaves and getting ready for the snow to make sure the downtown looked great. And we've received several compliments about that. But the efforts of all those people made a very successful event for the entire community. And I think it made a lot of Perrysburgers proud of their community and the efforts that make it special. So special shout out to them. City Administrator?
No report.
Finance Director?
No report.
Did a report yet?
I think a small one.
Okay, just checking. Law Director?
No report.
Thank you. President of Council? Thank you, Mayor. I have no report at this time. Committee reports, Finance and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report, but I will be presenting legislation to adopt 2022 municipal budget with the third and final reading. I'll be asking for a vote. So, having said that, I would like to introduce Ordinance 54-2021. Move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ordinance 54-2021, making appropriation for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Perrysburg, Wood County, Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
I have discussion. I move that the ordinance 54-2021 be passed as an emergency measure.
Discussion.
Thank you. I would like to say that I will not be voting for this because I do not believe the construction of bike paths throughout the city of Perrysburg, particularly along the riverbank, north of West Front Street, is in the best interest of the majority of Perrysburg citizens, is detrimental to the environment and unnecessary because of people who cycle already bike in the street. And there are several items that I do not agree with. One of them is the Fort Meigs multi-use path, $480,000. The Fort Meigs ditch installation at $365,000. The Roachton DDI, $85,000. I thought that was already done. The SRP MUP Indiana. That's a lot of this is really unnecessary work. Orleans parking lot repaving, or I should say paving, at $120,000. The Maumee Western Reserve retaining wall at $90,000. The Maple Street SSO construction of $300,000. $300,000. It seems to me that there's a lot of spending here on items that we should not be really worrying about as much. As far as the Fort Meigs ditch goes, I think they'd be best served to put the 90 trees back that were taken down and put a fence up. I think a lot of this is wasted money. We need to be putting more money into police and fire and necessary items, such as maintaining the parks, cleaning up the water plant, which is a problem right now, taking care of that. We did vote for the Lake Erie resolution, which is about cleaning up the water treatment plant. I think we need to do that. Thanks.
For point of clarification, one of the items is for fixing the sanitary sewer overflow, so that was mentioned.
I think that we aren't necessarily taking care of it because I'm talking about the sewer plant in particular.
The Maple Street SSO is the Maple Street sanitary sewer overflow to continue to work to eliminate that.
Well, I'm talking about the sewer plant proper. And we could have gotten money, and I noticed that we did not from the Ohio EPA for funding that wouldn't have cost us any money at all. In September, I see we did not apply for it, just so you know.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
One thing I do want to share with everyone as well is I did receive an email from a resident, and I did forward that over. He came over about 5:30 p.m. with some concerns regarding the budget in regards to the 4 make stitch as well. So if anybody has a chance to see that, I forward that over to council as a whole. But it did come in late this evening, so I know that not everyone may have had a chance.
Dr. James.
Yes. If you want, I can read the portion of that.
Just basically is concerned about spending money in the budget for the fourth med stitch cleaning and the damage is already based on what they read in the.
I have one question about the, you said the water treatment plant is, we have Ms. Godsey here that can maybe speak on that. What issues are there with the water? I'm not aware of.
Well, I mean, we already know that there are poisons that are being brought into it. You take a look and see. There's too much chlorine going on. We were told about that in the TTMs. And I think that's a problem right there. This is not a new problem. If you look at the EPA reports going back to 2006, you'll see all the reports that have started against the city of Perrysburg, I'm sorry to say.
And specifically, how's that affect our budget?
I would suggest that you take a look at that.
In Finance Committee, you never wanted to bring any of that up, though?
I've just brought it up right now because I have information.
Oh, okay, we didn't have that same information that you have.
You have it now.
From where?
I just told you from the Ohio EPA.
Thank you. I give up.
Any other questions? Call the vote.
Ms. Bourne?
No.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
The administration appreciates council's hard work on the budget.
Good job on the budget. The next Finance and Economic Development Committee is scheduled for December 14th, but due to some end-of-the-year items, budget, there's some small adjustments and some transfers that Amber would, and I would like to know if we could push it back a week and maybe have the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting at 5:30 on the following Tuesday, which would be right before our council meeting on the 21st. Would that be all right with our 2 committee members?
Perfect.
Okay.
That's fine, but you don't really know necessarily who will be on the committee.
No. What I'm talking about is we have our Finance Committee meeting that's scheduled for the 14th, a week from tonight. I just want to push it back an extra week. No, just 1 week. That would give Finance Department a chance to get some numbers in line, of course, and more things to talk about.
So council is aware, we usually try not to have something that's on the agenda the same day as this committee meeting, but because of the end of the year, we need some more time. And so there will be items likely on the agenda for consideration by council after the finance committee.
That's right. And our law director says she can have that all prepared for us if everything it moves forward at the committee.
These are pretty standard.
Yeah.
I should let you talk.
You want to speak on any of that, Amber?
Yeah, they are pretty much housekeeping items, year-end budget adjustments, transfers, that happen every year. Anything that we do have for the agenda, we will have out to council hopefully on Friday, before that meeting as well.
Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Mark, what's that date?
Oh, it'd be December 21st at 5:30 p.m. Same night as our council meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Safety Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no report, and we have moved the December meeting to tomorrow, December the 8th, at 5:30 PM.
Thank you. Recreation Committee?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning?
No report now. We will meet, with the date to be determined in January.
Personnel?
Yeah, I have a report. We had a meeting on November 30th. Meeting was called to order at 5:06. I was present along with Mark Weber. Tim McCarthy also arrived a little after the start time. Also present with Bridget, Kate, and Kelly. There were no citizens' concerns. Myself and Mr. Weber approved the prior month's minutes. Then we moved on to the Juneteenth holiday. I stated that I had a request from the mayor to add this item to the agenda. It will have an ordinance number when it goes to city council. It does not affect any bargaining agreements. Mr. Weber and Mr. Coleman agreed that it is fantastic we are doing this, and I'm going to give feedback about potentially doing a proclamation. There being no objections, this was recommended to move forward to city council. Then we discussed changes to section 266. This has been an ongoing thing, and you'll see quite a bit of legislation tonight involving this section. Ms. Chalfant went through the sections of Ordinance 266 with the committee members. The highlighted sections are what is being eliminated. Mr. Weber wanted to know why we are eliminating overtime in excess of 8 hours a day and going to 40 hours a week. Administration stated that they made that change a while ago. This is just to make everything consistent, and that it is the Fair Labor Standards Act standard. Mr. McCarthy arrived at 5:15. Mr. Weber asked if an employee is uninsurable, if they are able to go get their own insurance. Ms. Chalfant explained that they had looked into this option before, but they must be insurable through the city's insurance. Mr. McCarthy wanted further explanation on standby pay, which Ms. Chalfant explained to the committee. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend these changes to city council. Then we discussed changes to the reporting structure for the prosecutor's office. Ms. Andretto stated that in her legal opinion, they might be violating the charter with this restructure. Mr. McCarthy thinks that we should seek outside counsel and someone that has not worked with the city before. I suggested that we reach out to Mike Marsh because he's never worked with the city before and is a good municipal attorney. I would like to define what the prosecutor role is and stated that I would reach out to Mr. Marsh. Mr. Weber pointed out that it refers to the law director as he in chapter 242 and asked Ms. Andretto if she would like that change. She stated that the language should be changed to they. Ms. Andretto suggested that council pass an ordinance to change all language that says he or she or they, he or she to they. Ms. Cabot stated that she could have Ms. Rathburn contact the company that does the city's codified ordinances to see what is the best way to go about changing that language. There was no other business and the meeting was adjourned at 5:39. Next meeting is scheduled for next year on January 25th at 5 p.m. With that, it's actually my pleasure to introduce this ordinance. I'd like to introduce Ordinance 58-2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ordinance 58, 2021, an ordinance amending ordinance 266.07-1, paid holidays to include Juneteenth, which is now a recognized federal holiday celebrated each year on June 19th.
Okay, I move that ordinance 58-2021 be passed. Second?
Discussion.
I have one thing I'd like to say. I noticed in our information it says the council and the mayor for the city of Perrysburg now wish to recognize Juneteenth as official city of Perrysburg holiday by amending ordinance 266.07.1 to include in it the list of paid holidays for non-bargaining unit employees. So it says in here this ordinance will not have a financial impact on the city, but it will, because they will have to be paid. So I am for this, but I just want to point that out.
Okay. Yeah, there could be a small financial impact because there could be some overtime as well. That's good.
So, and just to be clear, though, these ordinances, when we're in personnel, these are basically catch-alls to our non-bargaining employees, right?
Yeah.
Section 260. It may be in our collective bargaining agreements, but this is
for the non-bargain employees, right?
If the collective bargaining agreement speaks to something that's in 266, the collective bargaining agreement trumps.
Okay.
If it does not speak to something that's in section 266, then the ordinance is what dictates whatever it is that we're discussing. Paid holidays are in all of the collective bargaining agreements.
I was going to say, don't they have, most collective bargaining groups have a parity Me Too clause in there, saying if, oh, okay. Interesting.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to group the rest of these together. So I would like to introduce ordinance 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Ordinance 59, 2021, amended codified ordinance 266.05-2, previously amended by ordinance 12, 2020 on September 1st, 2020, and ordinance 117-95 on August 22nd, 1995, and by ordinance 156-2006 on August 1st, 2006, and by ordinance 158-2006 on August 15th, 2006, relating to the calculation of overtime compensation. Ordinance 60, 2021, amending codified ordinance 266.06-1 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, codified by ordinance 37, 2004, and passed on April 20, 2004. Ordinance 61, 2001, amending codified ordinance 266.06-2 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted by ordinance 105-91 and passed on November 1st, 1991. Ordinance 62, 2021, amending codified ordinance 266.06-3 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted by ordinance 61, 2019, passed on December 17, 2019. Ordinance 63, 2021, amending codified ordinance 266.06-4 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted on ordinance 120-2015 and passed on December 15, 2015. Ordinance 64-2021, amending codified ordinance 266.09-2 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, codified by ordinance 75-2000 and passed on July 11, 2000. Ordinance 65-2021, amending codified ordinance 266.10-9 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted on ordinance 175-2006 on August 1st, 2006. Ordinance 66-2021, amending codified ordinance 266.11-4 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted by ordinance 82-2000 on July 11, 2000. Ordinance 67-2021, repealing codified ordinance 266.12-2 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted by ordinance 110-2003 and passed on June 17, 2003. Ordinance 68-2021, repealing codified ordinance 266.12-3 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted by ordinance 110-2003 and passed on June 17, 2003. Ordinance 69-2021, amending codified ordinance 266.13-1 of the City of Perrysburg Personnel Code, previously enacted on ordinance 15-2019 and passed on June 4th, 2019.
I move that ordinances 59 through 69 of the year 2021 be passed.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you, Amber.
I was just saying, can we make
Yeah.
that longer?
I was gonna let her catch her breath for a second. Roll call?
Get some water.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Just to recap what we just did, because that was a lot. We're just making our code more specific, be cohesive with our bargaining agreements and make it simplified and in line with what we're doing. Nothing further.
You're cleaning house, so to speak.
Yep, cleaning up the old ordinances.
Thank you. Public utilities.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a meeting on November 29th at 6:30 PM. Myself, committee members present were myself, Ms. Materney, and Mr. Van Hoosen. Also present were Kate Sandretto, the law director, as well as Alice Gotch, the director of public utilities. We had citizen concerns. Roger Bowers of 758 Maple Street is requesting an abatement of sewage on his utility bill for the months of October and November. Mr. Bowers had met with Ms. Gotchi several times. The committee members had a lengthy discussion back and forth with Mr. Bowers. Mr. Smith suggested they refund in excess of Mr. Bowers' maximum usage in the last 2 years, which is 500 cubic feet. So for in October, it would be reduced from 2,000 to 500. For November, it would be reduced from 700 to 500. Ms. Materney and Mr. Van Hoosen agreed that they are good with the method of refund as well. So to explain a little further, he had an issue with the army worms in his yard. He had to reseed his entire backyard, had utilized sprinkler systems, and was in excess of 2,000 cubic feet of water usage. We went back and looked at his prior 2 years of his water bills and found that the highest usage he had during those 2 years was 500, so it wasn't like he was watering on a regular basis anyways. And the recommendation that we have is to reduce the sewage portion of the water bill from 2,000 to 500 for October and 700 to 500 for the month of November. So with that, I am making a motion to make that reduction.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
All right, we approved the prior meeting minutes with no objections. We had a sewer credit appeal for 114 Wentworth Court. Ms. Godsey explained that the homeowner submitted a letter and documentation of repair costs and that the backup sump pump ran for a extended period of time due to failure of the primary sump pump. A dye test was done, which confirmed the water does not enter the sanitary sewer. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend this to City Council, and with that, I'm going to make a motion to recommend the sewer credit appeal for 114 Wentworth Court.
Second.
For discussion, roll call?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Then we had a third appeal for 900 Wood Sorrel Lane. Ms. Godsey explained the homeowner submitted a letter and documentation as well of repair costs, and that the backup sump pump, of course, ran for an extended period of time due to the failure of the primary sump pump. A dye test was done, which confirmed the water does not enter the sanitary sewer. Again, the committee recommend 3-0 to approve this sewer credit appeal, and with that, I'm going to make a motion to approve 900 Wood Sorrel Lane credit appeal.
I second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
All right, we had a tabulation of the sewer credit appeals that fell under Ms. Godsey's approval, and there was only one for the month of November. We had further discussion on the water and sewer rate legislation. Mr. Van Hoosen asked when these rates will change. Ms. Sandretto stated that if the legislation is passed as an emergency measure at City Council, it will go into effect on January 1st of 2022. Committee members agreed that it is not necessary to put this through as an emergency measure since it involves a rate change. And the committee agreed 3-0 to recommend it to City Council. We had a return items review. So what this was is Mr. Smith explained that with a delinquent check, a shut-off cannot occur until the 13th day after the next billing cycle. On the back of the water bill, it states that an NSF can lead to an immediate shut-off and that wording should be changed, and I believe it's going to be changed. There was discussion amongst Ms. Sandretto, Ms. Godsey, and the committee members, and we're going to continue with the administration is going to continue with door hangers as well as the 2-week notice in the mail. What this was is, as many of you saw on social media, there was a post, and I believe we have this resolved and we've got this corrected moving forward. So there's no action needed by council at this time. Engineering design services for the Fort Meigs multi-use path project. This is the Department of Public Utility portion of the funds. Mr. Smith noted that the multi-use path will now go all the way down to River Road. Ms. Sandretto stated that they wanted to be fully funded for the project, including worst-case scenarios, since the ditch is already collapsing. The committee members discussed the scoring of the firms and the process of how the firm was chosen. Mr. Smith reiterated that we need to avoid the removal of trees as few as possible with this project. Mr. Van Hoosen stated that he will support this, but hopes that moving forward, our ditch cleaning process is enhanced compared to what it has been in the past. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend this to City Council. We had a discussion on the meeting date, and it's tentatively placed for the 22nd, so long as there's, if there happens to be anything that needs to be discussed. And in other business, Mr. Smith mentioned a water pipe sticking out in the middle of the sidewalk by Shell gas station on 25 and Finley. Ms. Gatti said that is a valve box and the equipment is ordered. Mr. Smith also wanted to mention that the two doors down from my home, there's a sewer that is sticking out of the right of way near the sidewalk. It's pretty high above the ground and is a safety hazard. And I believe that they're going to be looking into that. And Ms. Materney also wanted to clarify that if we have a regular ditch maintenance program, it would avoid issues like what we are seeing with the Fort Mings ditch. There be no further business. We adjourn at 7:30 p.m. And our next scheduled meeting is tentatively set for December 22nd at 6:30 p.m. So with that, I do have a couple of ordinances here, and I am going to go ahead and do these all separately. So let me make sure I got these all down here correct. So the first one, I would like to introduce Ordinance 70/2021 and move the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and dispense with second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
No. I'm sorry, yes, sorry.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ordinance 70-2021, amending section 1060.02 and repealing 1060.03 of the codified ordinances regarding water charges inside and outside the city of Perrysburg.
All right, I move that Ordinance 70/2021 be passed.
I second.
Discussion.
I have discussion. I noticed in the information we have down, water rates 2021 amends the water rates for both inside and outside the city. It also says sewer rates 2021 amends the sewer rates for both inside and outside the city. It says on here that these changes will not create any additional costs of the city, but they will create a necessary increase in revenue for the operation and maintenance. I think we need to have more discussion on this because it's only got, it says on down here, motions to waive for 3 readings. Well, you're supposed to have 3 readings. The public can have some input on this. You're talking about raising their water rates, and I think that's an important thing for them to have some thoughts on. So I will be voting no on that.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
No.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Great, I'm going to make a motion to, or I would, not a motion, sorry. I would like to introduce Ordinance 71/2021 and move the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, dispense with second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Ordinance 71-2021, amending section 1050.01 and repealing section 1050.02 of the codified ordinances regarding sewer charges inside and outside of the city of Perrysburg.
All right, I would move that Ordinance 71/2021 be passed.
I
I have
second.
discussion.
Discussion.
I would say that I am not for this again because it's again for engaging new gen strategies and solutions to conduct a water and sewer rate study. And I don't think we need to be spending all that again and then also raising people's water and sewer rates. So I'm saying no.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
No.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
All right, sorry, my agenda got out of place here. We had way too many for the personnel, so I lost my place. I would like to introduce Ordinance 72/2021 and move that the rules be suspended for allow for its reading by number and title only, dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ordinance 72-2021, amending section 1050.015 of the codified ordinances regarding sanitary sewer collection charges.
I move that rules excuse me, I move that ordinance 72, 2021 be passed.
We'll have discussion once
I
again.
second.
Got a second discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, for the same reasons. We're employing this group to study, and then we're also looking at raising their water rates, and I just don't think that makes sense. No.
Any other discussion, roll call?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
No.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
No further report for public utilities.
And no date, oh,
Well, technically, we still have it for December 22nd, tentatively, and
oh, okay.
unless there's nothing for the agenda. Right now, I don't think there's anything on the agenda. There's nothing to report yet, so it may be likely to be canceled.
Thank you. Service?
The meeting is called to order at 5:33 PM by Chairperson Jan Materney, committee members present were Jan Materney and Jonathan Smith. Committee member Corey Coleman was not present. Also present were Kate Sandretto, Law Director, and Brian Thomas, City Engineer. No citizen concerns. There's approval, no objections. The minutes from the October 27th meeting were approved. Site prep for pickleball courts. Ms. Sandretto stated the Rotary Club is fundraising for 8 pickleball courts at Rotary Park and that the city of Perrysburg has agreed to supervise the entire project. The city will front the money for the site prep and the Rotary Club will pay the city back once they have completed fundraising. Mr. Smith stated that since he's a member of the Rotary, that he believes he cannot vote on this matter. Mr. Smith was curious if the pickleball courts at Municipal Court will be converted back to tennis courts or stay as is. The pickleball courts at Municipal Park will remain pickleball courts. Ms. Materney recommended that we send this on to City Council for approval. Additional funding for Fire Station number 38. Mr. Thomas explained that this is for remodel work to get the existing fire station broken up into different zones so that when the firefighters come in with their dirty gear, they will not be walking through the living or sleeping areas. This additional funding would be for 8 change orders. Ms. Materney asked if some of these change orders were already sent to council. Ms. Sandretto explained that change order was approved when the legislation was first sent to council and approved, but this is an additional $10,000 since it went beyond the 7%. The committee agreed 2-0 to send this to City Council for approval. Engineering design services for Fort Meg's multi-use path project. After ranking the firms, the highest scoring firm was GPD. The ordinance before the committee is to approve the funds of the project so they can get started on the engineering work. Mr. Thomas explained that the price they were given was a worst-case scenario and will not exceed that amount. The city will be billed for only the number of hours GPD group works. Mr. Thomas added that this proposal, it will actually take the multi-use path all the way out to River Road. Mr. Smith asked about the scorecards because Bergman was a very close second and also was involved with the initial study itself. He wanted to know why we would not use a firm that has been part of this and wanted to know if it was more cost-effective to use Bergman instead of GPT. Mr. Thomas explained that the way the revised codes is set up for engineering, this cannot be selected based on price. It must be selected based on qualification. Mr. Smith thinks it is important also to have a recommendation from public utilities on this matter. Mr. Smith also wanted to be sure that it was on the public record that the ditch is starting to collapse and is inching closer to Fort Meg's Road. The committee agreed to recommend this to City Council. The December meeting date the committee will wait and see if anything important comes up. Service Committee will decide by Friday, December 17th, if they will have the December meeting or not. Other business, Mr. Smith commended engineering for an excellent job on South Boundary with moving the lights around today. He suggested some reflectors where the yellow line is, which was stated is in the plan. Ms. Materney asked about Roachton Road, and Mr. Thomas explained it as a way the plans are done. Ms. Materney wanted to commend city service employees for putting brine down today. She stated she is a big supporter of using brine because it ultimately cuts costs. The city uses less salt and cuts down the number of accidents overall due to road conditions. There being no further business, the meeting will adjourn at 6 p.m. And I do have some resolutions to bring to council. I would like to introduce Resolution 66-2021 and move that the rules be suspended, allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second, third readings.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Van Nuysen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Resolution 66, 2021, authorizing an amendment to Resolution 37, 2021, authorizing the agreement with Lathrop Company, Inc. for the construction portion of the City of Perrysburg's Fire Station Number 38 Improvement Project, an additional amount not to exceed $10,000, and declaring an emergency.
I move that Resolution 66-2021 be passed as emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion?
I have discussion. I noticed in the information once again, and what I was able to find out is the resolution says it will amend the agreement originally awarded in the Resolution 37, 2021, by providing additional funding in the amount of $10,000 for the Station 38 Improvement Project. While I'm always supportive of police and fire, and I always will be, I think this is ridiculous. This is, a contract is essentially a contract. We should hold them to their bids. I do not believe that we should be giving them more monies. If they wanted to have the more monies, they should have had it in the contract to begin with.
I have some questions too, since I was in that service, if I can. Are these, so the 10,000 we're approving, it's just because it's above that 7% contingency? It's not like 10,000 on top of the 7%, it's just 10,000?
So the original agreement not only was for a base bid, but also included a contingency that was roughly $10,888.
Mm-hmm.
With the change orders that have taken place today, we are over that dollar amount.
Okay.
So we're coming back asking for an additional $10,000.
Okay.
And just so all of council is aware, these change orders are not based on, I'll say, the bidding of Lathrop, but rather items that the architect did not include in the bid specifications that Lathrop then bid on. So many of these are items that were unknown at the time. Utilities in the floor where none were marked or located. Utilities in walls that were opened where they were not marked on plans. Operational issues within the fire department that was relayed to the architect, yet the architect did not draw up the plans to reflect those requests by the fire division. So there's a whole host of issues. And currently, even though that this is for, I think I presented to the service committee via Kate and Brian, that there was approximately 8 change orders at that point in time. We're now at change order number 14. Hopefully that will be the final one. And it looks like this dollar amount that we're requesting will cover those change orders. But if not, I will be back asking for additional dollars to complete that project.
Doesn't this also include the hole in the wall?
Yes, it does. That all parties were unaware of.
I would also point out as well that we did not have our engineer when we first put this through, when we're coming up with the.
And these are items that our engineer would not have been aware of either.
Yeah, but just point out that we didn't have an engineer.
That is true.
The point to help look over something.
And we had an outsourced engineer.
Yes.
When they bid on the project, they bid on it based upon the plans. So that's all they have to do for that price. Anything over and above, we are responsible. It's just like a homeowner.
Yes, these items were not in the plans,
And,
unfortunately.
yes. And once you get in old buildings, you never know what you're,
We have discovered a lot.
yes.
I'd like to point out that building was built in 1957, and, you know, being in a lot of construction, you start cutting into floors and walls, you're going to find things that was never on any drawing. And that's just going to happen, and even they can look back at all the old drawings, and there were very few codes back then, and they put things in, they just put them in when they wanted to, so that's easy to find out. So give you an idea how old that is, 1950, that's the year I was born, so that's pretty old buildings.
No comment.
And I didn't work on that job, no,
Well, Bridget, what I will say is I've noticed that since we've implemented this contingency percentage thing, I believe this is the first one that had that language in there that we've seen back, so I appreciate that. It seems like we're fine tuning that, coming back to council. And it makes absolute sense that this would be the project that comes back based on what Mark just said, so. I appreciate you guys working on that.
They didn't always build things according to plan back then.
Any other discussion? Brian, do you have anything you want to add? Marvo. Roll call, please.
Mr. Van Nuysen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
No.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay, with that said, I would like to introduce Resolution 67-2021 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only and to dispense with the second, third reading.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, I think we should bring it on.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Resolution 67, 2021. A resolution authorizing an agreement with G6 Infrastructure LLC for the site preparations of the new Rotary Park Pickleball court in an amount not to exceed $69,750 and declaring an emergency.
I would move that Resolution 67-2021 be passed as emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion?
I have discussion. I think this is really great, and glad that we have them over in the municipal park and through recreation committee. And I think this is very positive, and I would like to commend the Rotary Club and also say to Mr. Smith, and who's a member of the Rotary Club, please pass on. I appreciate everything that you do. This would be another thing that I appreciate that they're doing for the community.
Roll call?
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Abstain.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot where I was at. I would like to introduce Resolution 68-2021 and move the rules be suspended, allow for its reading by number and title only to dispense with the second, third reading. I was blinded by Councilman Smith's tie and made me lose track of where we were.
We're almost there.
Did we get a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 68, 2021, a resolution authorizing an agreement with GPD Group for the provision of engineering, survey, and environmental services in an amount not to exceed $271,211 and declaring an emergency.
I move that Resolution 68-2021 be passed as emergency measure.
I have quick discussion.
Second.
Jonathan, second. Discussion?
I will be voting no on this. The Fort Meigs road ditch and the multi-use side path. The total amount I see listed here is $248,515, not $271,000. And I do not think that this is necessary, so I will be saying no.
I would just say it's refreshing that this multi-use path should be connecting to a larger multi-use path. I appreciate the administration working to kind of create a non-vehicular travel way for our citizens. I know that will draw in some younger families, and I certainly will be using it and appreciative of that addition. So this is a cool piece of legislation.
I agree.
I echo that as well. This is a long time coming. On the council working on this project here, and we're almost through the end here with this.
Any other discussion?
With everything I've heard, even on the campaign trail from residents and from the surveys of the land use plan, this is what the people of Perrysburg want, and I'm all for it.
And we need to do something with this ditch before I lose the road. It's more expensive to repair a road than it is to fix a ditch.
Roll call. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine.
I apologize. Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
No.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Now, I would like to introduce Ordinance 73-2021 and move that the rules be suspended, allow for its reading by number and title only, and is dispensed with the second, third reading.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Ordinance 73, 2021, accepting streets, alleys, and green space for codified ordinance 1295.07 for the villages at Canterbury, Plat 3, and declaring an emergency.
I move that Ordinance 73-2021 be passed as emergency.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
That is all I have.
Thank you very much. Any other business come before council?
I have a couple things I will try to be as brief as possible. First, Bridget, I was hoping you could give us and I won't ask this at the next meeting, so consider this my year-end question on where we're at with live streaming meetings.
I believe our IT manager is still waiting for Pro Video to locate the RTTP video stream within the system.
Okay.
That's what they have to be able to extract out of the system.
But we are working on it.
Yes.
Perfect. Two, have we looked into the water tower repainting design stuff at all? I know we did not discuss it at all at last meeting, and we're kind of in a time crunch.
Well, the CBB is moving forward with a person at this time. I think we're moving forward with that. I'm not quite sure how to answer your question. I think I'm not sure how to answer your question.
Well, I guess to summarize it, when it was brought up at the last meeting, it seemed like there was some concerns of just picking a design and not necessarily having community involvement or quotes on what additional artwork might cost or what it might look like. And I wanted to see if there was any follow-up on that.
I think there has been some follow-up with the CBB.
Okay. And any from the administration?
Well, yeah, I guess. I'm not quite sure. I mean, the resolution ordinance was passed. I think we're looking at how best to do the design that addresses some of those concerns and is not generic, but is consistent with our branding.
Okay.
I can follow up with you on that.
I think just to follow up is, I don't think from my understanding, I don't think a design had yet been selected regardless. And I think that's one thing that if I don't speak for you, but trying to find out what is going to go up there at this point.
We can get some information, yes.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect way for community involvement, whether it's our different logos that we've been paying for that fits our branding. I think it'd be nice if the public was aware. I was glad the Sentinel did an article that we're repainting that, so it doesn't just pop up and people go, oh, okay. But if we could involve the community in the design aspect, if it's possible at this point, I would like to see that.
We will also reach out to our new. We don't have a public information officer that lined up, but we'll do that.
I would add on to Corey's comments. I think it would be nice if, once again, if we could have the Commodore up there. That is what people think of Perrysburg. Should be up there.
Okay, I have one last thing.
I got one more before we move on to that. Just real quick, I know I sent out some text last night about our neighbors down in Bowling Green passed a resolution about engaging in potential talks about a railway to Toledo to Columbus. I would like to see that. I believe Mayor Mackin suggested that go to public utilities.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Perfect. So I would love to see that on the agenda. I just wanted to mention that out loud at the meeting, but that's all I have.
All right, very good. We're going to wait on other things.
Can I say one thing?
No, yes, you may.
Thank
Sure.
you. I had the pleasure of attending the ribbon cutting for the new sculpture down at the Riverwalk, and it's gorgeous. I would encourage everybody. Well, gorgeous isn't the nice.
It was freezing, is what it was.
Yeah, it was, but the sculpture is very neat, and I would suggest when it gets warmer, everybody get a chance.
On that note, I would. That's good. I'm glad you raised that. I was going to mention something. That was a collaboration between the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Downtown Perrysburg Inc. And those were funds from the CVB, so it wasn't funds from the city's budget for that. And it was a real collaborative effort, and it is a nice addition to that park.
And they unveiled the name for it last night, and it was a great day to do that, as windy as it was, but the name of the project is called Against the Wind.
Bob Seeger.
It's really clever.
And those of us who are a certain age know that Bob Seeger used to play in the area all the time before he made it famous. Some of us, not me, as too young, might have gone to see him.
I've been to his concert, so.
I've heard of him, I think.
So I have one other thing. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Do you have one more, Tom?
What?
Do you have one more thing?
No. Very good.
Oh, boy, you have to sign all those?
Yeah.
Oh.